Welcome to the Turning Stone Show, where we discuss topics that matter to you about spiritual consciousness evolving. We're here to offer conversation and ask questions and explore. I'm David Marsh, and here with me is Wendy Falcon and Jesse Farrell. Our topic today is Everything Changed, the shift in collective consciousness after 9/11. Our guest is Casey Miller. She is the founder and chief spiritual officer of the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts. Of all the titles she could claim, the one she chooses to use the most is Instrument of Spirit. Recently, we had a chance to spend some time with her and hear this incredible story.
We've always said that we were spirit-directed, spirit-guided, and that's the positioning nowadays. They say that that's your platform, and it is, because that's who I am. And one of the things I was real clear about is I no longer wanted to be employed by anybody that wanted me to be somebody different. Our mission has become helping people to discover their gifts, and we don't always know what that is. Sometimes it's through massage. Now it's more likely through just intuition, coaching, yoga. The bottom line is that I've always been committed to helping people really discover what it is that helps them touch that divine. 9/11 was a huge awareness for me and then all the healers that have come after it. And this is what I know. The day that 9/11 happened, we had class and all of us were gathered and we were watching what was happening on the TV. Instead of people being afraid, they kept coming to the school. And so even though there were students that didn't have class that day, they kept coming and they were coming to the school. And we found that we were all gathered around the TV, and more and more and more and more people. And I looked around and the entire classroom was filled with people that they brought their family, they brought their kids, and they came and we were watching. And then we just began to pray. Our Father, you're in heaven and we don't understand. And what we realized is that day, as horrendous as it was, it connected the world in a different way. You ask a healer and they will tell you it was the day on some level that they knew they were supposed to do something to shift the way that people were in the world. We all know now that we don't know what's going to happen when we go out the door. And so for me, it has always been a gigantic shift. There was one woman who had watched several of her friends jumping from the tower, and she kept holding her heart. And she tells the story that she goes, my friends' bodies fell to the ground, but I saw them, the true them, being escorted to heaven by the angels. You don't have to worry about your physical body. Our preparation is to be prepared to be taken to that higher level. This dimension is only one dimension.
Casey, that was a profound and powerful piece, just giving context to 9/11. Now, this is not going to be a show commemorating that day. That's been done a lot. We've had 15 years, year after year, to give honor to those that lost their lives, to give honor to those that served on that day. This is Turning Stones, and we're looking for what is the meaning underneath the surface. And you felt a profound shift in consciousness with 9/11. The collective consciousness that we're all here, everyone is here for a purpose and a reason, and we're in this together, and somehow something shifted, and you felt that in an energy sense from the school. Give us your context of how you felt energetically after those events.
Absolutely. The way I like to think of it is it's been said that if you were to open up a tree, there are rings, and that you can tell when something dramatic happened, when there was a drought, when there was a lot of water.
It's good.
If we were to take the earth and open it up, we would see that energetically there would be a ring of distinction, that there was before 9/11 and then there would be a ring. Now, I don't know from that bigger point if it would be a dark ring or if it would be a light ring. I believe that dark created a new light, and that's what we really have a chance to look at.
Yeah.
It's interesting, if you look at history, my mother talks about Pearl Harbor, and she talks about the day that John F. K. was shot. I talk about 9/11.
Yeah.
My son talks about 9/11, and my grandchildren talk about 9/11. So something shifted, and we all began to realize that first, we are not in control. That we are not in control, and yet what is interesting to me is that we must do something. America had more. It created we came together. We were flying the flag again. There were people that were praying together.
Yeah.
There were all-time heights in church attendance. But what we really found is, for the first time, people who'd never prayed, and they have kept praying.
Yeah.
The most amazing thing that I see is, if you ask anybody where they were, they know, and you say, what shifted? And my guess is even the three of you would say, I now have an itch that there is something I must do, that because I was one that was left behind, I now know there's a reason that I have been left behind.
No, that's great.
That's wonderful. When you spoke about control, what came up for me is the shift from the desire to control to the inspiration to influence.
Yes.
And that's what comes up for me with 9/11 is I'm inspired to be influential, understanding I don't have control, but that I have tremendous power of influence.
Absolutely. You could make a difference.
And that I can make a difference.
Yes.
And when you spoke about the rings, what would you give an example that represents the dark ring versus a light ring? Wasn't clear on that.
We all thought it was dark. We all thought, oh, these terrible people, this terrible thing that happened. And there was an all-time high of young men wanting to get into the military and go in and take these dark forces.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you really sat back and looked, we began to look at heaven in a new way. We began to wonder, is heaven a place? And many books have come out where we talked about heaven and is there life after death? What I see 9/11 did, it created the polarity. Yes, it felt dark, and we saw all that dark smoke, and we all perhaps went through a period of being in the fog.
Yeah.
We've come out. Those that are post 9/11, especially now, 15 years later, we realize that it was about us getting real clear that we can influence the light.
Yeah.
And that's what I see, is people are saying, I get that I am not my body. And I must seek that light. I must seek what it is that I have been saved for. Why was I not in that building? Why was I where I was? And it was because you have work to do.
Yeah.
One of the other things that really just bubbles up for me when you're speaking about this is the other paradigm shift that I've encountered in my own life, which is the understanding that a lot of growth comes from pain many times, sorrow and heartache, and that there's actually another option for growth, and it's growth from a place of pleasure, and that there is a choice between pleasure or pain. Growth is not an option because we're either in growth or decay, but how we grow, there's an option. And that was so painful, I mean, for the whole world. And there was tremendous growth exponentially. And the concept of growth from pleasure, which to me represents what you do at your institute and offering those types of yoga, massage, things that you're still growing in, but they're pleasurable. And imagine if the whole world took on the commitment to growth from pleasure, and then in doing that, supported facilities like yourself and gain that abundance for themselves and create a peace within themselves, which would be creating peace exponentially in our world with each individual, knowing that this is just simply a choice.
Right. And the choice is always that polarity. How do I choose to see it? Do I choose to see it as a day that God turned his back on the world? Or do I choose to see it that it was our choices that made that polarity, the dark, the light? What I got real clear is after that I began to realize we all have this sacred contract. We've all signed up to do something. Some of us signed up to be in that building that came to ground that day. Some of us signed up to be at ground zero helping. Some of us were maybe states away, but we signed up to be the observer and say, wow, let me pray for those people. Let me understand that maybe it's about me providing perspective. That day, I can tell you that my husband and I were at the front of the room. Did we have any idea what we were praying about or doing? But no, there were hundreds of people in our little classroom saying, give us direction. Show us what we should do. So it was, for me, a real clear realization that my contract is to help provide context. That it's not always about the light and the dark. It's about what your role is and where you are to learn from, whether it's pain or pleasure.
Coming up, Casey talks about sacred contracts on The Turning Stone Show.
Welcome to Southwest Institute of Healing Arts. Holistic health offers so many positive possibilities. Feeling better inside and out, finding peace and serenity, energizing or relaxing yourself with massage, yoga, holistic nutrition, and many practices that support wellness and harmony of the mind, body, and spirit. Southwest Institute of Healing Arts is an award-winning, nationally accredited private college and community healing center for holistic healthcare careers and continuing education.
Hi, I'm Jesse. Here's what you need to know about Chinese cupping. It's a great way to just tweak your body just enough to get increased performance, but also to release some of those areas of your body that you don't even realize are painful. And cupping and acupuncture are often used together, but it's an effective way to bring blood flow to a particular area of the body so it aids in rapid healing.
Turning Stone Show. Spiritual consciousness evolving.
A lot of people, they don't even have the understanding of why we're here. And I came from a faith tradition of a dualistic system. You're either in or you're out. When you get one life to live and then you're gone, and that's it. If you did it wrong, you burn in conscious eternal torment forever. It's an awful narrative, but there's a lot of people still trapped in that. I now have had some understanding there's more to this world than what we think there is. You were somewhere before you were here, and you'll be somewhere after you're here. And so to your point of spiritual or sacred contracts, give a little bit of context to that. Give some education. Some people don't understand that.
Okay.
I was in a business recently doing some video work for them, and the daughter of the business owner said, I didn't choose to come here. You know, they're making me do things, but I didn't want to be here. And I said, actually, that's not true. You chose to come here. She's like, what? And it shook her foundation. I'm like, you were somewhere and you chose to come here. Give some context about that.
Well, there's actually a great book by Carolyn Mace called Sacred Contracts.
There it is.
And it talks about all the decisions that we made on another level. Now that could be a whole show in of itself. Is, did we make the decision? Did we choose our mother? Did we choose our father? Probably.
Probably, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Did we choose to marry this particular person and then have that relationship end? Probably. Did we just choose it in this lifetime, or did we make that decision on a whole other level? Does it matter where we made the decision? It matters that we make conscious decisions, and we look at our life as not being victims, but in fact that we are a part of a greater contract. And that contract is that you and I will meet today, and that we'll recognize one another, and we'll like, oh, I have a feeling we have a piece of work to do. When you meet people, you recognize them.
No, it's so great because I have been so conscious of that, especially over the last 10 years, but over even the last 2 years. And I have noticed, and I've said this before even on the shows, I've noticed if I'm in a large classroom setting or if I walk into a space, and I will immediately, energetically pick up particular people.
Yes.
And I may not rush right to them and have conversations with them, but what is interesting is sometime through the weekend or the course or whatever, I will end up next to those people in conversations with those people. And then I say now with people, it's like, be interested. be intrigued
Yes.
in, be observant to, ask questions. And so when I notice that now, I actually really set people, I have that conversation with people. And I'm like, we're in each other's lives for a reason,
Yes.
and let's continue to explore until we know.
That's being intentional about that. That's great.
Very
And
good
it's
point.
so great. Like so it really has me also look at who, it talks about there's a time and a season for relationships and for people in our lives as well. And so it allowed me to, those relationships that needed to fade away because their season had ended, our agreement or maybe contract had completed,
Yes.
to be fine with that and to spend and to nurture the relationships that I know are consciously coming in, that there is work to do.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, like I have this one friend, Randy, he's a psychiatrist and a psychic, he's very psychic as well. And he was really the first person that I met that I consciously knew we had had a past life with, and that we had consciously chosen to do work together in this lifetime. We've known each other now 10 years. I met him in 2006 in August. And he started out as a client, and I ended up firing him right away as a client because it was the first time ever in a session with someone that I walked in and I wasn't myself. I was 20 questions the entire time about him, like, what do you do? What's going on? Like, and that time, not being conscious of that, I was just like, I was overcome with, there's something pulling me into this
That's great.
creation.
That's this whole thing of deja vu, that sometimes
Yeah.
we
Yes.
remember people on some level.
Yeah.
And that's really what the
It was-
excitement is.
It was so amazing. And it was the first time I ever had the experience of being able to completely 100% be myself with another human being.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I couldn't hold anything back. I could completely be honest and share. And when I finally fired him as a client was the one time I walked into he was getting ready, he was on the table, and I walked in, and I work intuitively, and so I just walked in, placed my hands on his feet, and I just immediately went into a full body sob
Yes.
and cried for 2 hours.
Yes.
And Randy just held me and allowed me to heal and to cry. And it was the most profound. And after that, I mean, we're great friends now, and we've had many experiences like that. And at some point, I'm like, well, why can't we be in a relationship? He's like, that's not why we're here.
Yeah.
We're here for
So
something
did you
very
charge him or
different.
did he charge you?
That's why I'm like, I can't charge you anymore. Like, I get so much out of our sessions together, like, I can't charge you anymore.
That story is not uncommon, though. I hear that with healers, that they will know things about their
Yeah.
clients. They will know things about their family. And sometimes they don't want to know that, and they can't not know. That's one of the gateways of 9/11, that from that day, we all have a deeper knowing. It was like, whoop, that was one of the veils that was released that day. If you ask people and you get them really quiet, they can almost everyone will say, maybe I have had hunches, more so since that date on the calendar. Maybe I have intuited. Maybe I did know something. And part of what I like to do is help people get really quiet and begin to realize there is no right and wrong. It's only their knowing of what's right and wrong for them.
Yeah.
You talk about the paradigms of the box church or the box dogma. Needed, has served a history. Allow ourselves to come out and imagine that this entire world, this entire state, this city is our sanctuary. And where are we to serve? And how is it that we're to be? I love to talk to entrepreneurs about marketing and have this very thing. It's like, what if you go into a room and there's someone there you're to serve? And that part of it is for you to get very conscious about how it is that you're looking into their soul and beginning to say, I wonder if I'm to serve Jesse. I wonder if I'm to serve, to work with you. Or what if I'm supposed to ask you this outrageous, provocative question, Wendy, that you're like, wow, that was a message.
That's my job. That's what I do.
Go right ahead and ask me. I'm ready. I'm open to receive. Go right ahead.
And so this is kind of a fun little thing, because I always say that after 9/11, I got really outrageous. I got permission to speak because I realized that was part of what my job was. And so one thing that I may not have shared with you is I have this outrageous little technology where I actually try to look at people's feet to be able to see where their real truth is, what's there for them. Doesn't matter that that's a funny little technique that actually happened after 9/11.
So that came into your life after 9/11?
It did.
No, it's called toe reading.
It's called toe reading or soul coaching.
Soul coaching. Now you are an authority on that and
I
an
am
expert
an
on that.
authority on
Now,
that.
I
am an expert on that.
I read on your website that you've done this, and I saw something associated with MTV. Is there?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, it's funny because I do believe even if you've been in television, that people began to get more outrageous after 9/11. I mean, it's because people wanted to see more sensational things. Comedy got funnier and more rank. Words began to be more permissible, like the F-bomb. It's always been in existence, but if you track it back to TV, it started when we began to realize we're not going to be here forever. Things could switch like this. We can start saying the F-bomb. We can start saying outrageous things. So, yes, I had a little phone call come from MTV. Well, can I tell you, I didn't even know what MTV was. I didn't really understand what it was. So I had to go, and so I was telling my husband, this week, he goes, you might want to watch that just to see the language that they're using, because I have a particular feeling about F-bombs.
Coming up, Casey talks about being on MTV on The Turning Stone Show. So you have a great business and you're ready to shout it to the world and start your marketing campaign, letting everybody know just how awesome you are. You're looking for some great marketing that will get your business some exposure and create a real bang in your industry. I'm talking about a well-designed video that captures the what and the how of what you do. We help you capture your business. AZ Video Marketing.
Hypnosis is not magic, it's not mysticism, it's science. My name is Cynthia Beck and I'm a master hypnotist. I've been studying hypnosis and energy for the last 30 years. All hypnosis is learning to relax the body so the brain can slow down. If you're looking for a way to manage stress and find deeper meaning, come and see me.
Turning Stone Show. Spiritual consciousness evolving.
Someone said, are you a psychic? I don't really consider myself a psychic. Am I psychic? Do I occasionally have little psychic gifts? Yes. They were looking for a psychic for a TV program that was called Next. And it was where you would go and you would have a chance to date someone. They'd get off the bus and you'd be able to say, next, if you didn't even like their looks. Or you could have a whole conversation. Pardon?
The current Tinder. Next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have a whole conversation. So they wanted me to come and help have a conversation based on looking at someone's toes. I'm like, sure, I'd be happy to be a toe psychic if that's what you're hiring for today. Yeah. And it was more about...
What scale pay on that? That's what you want to ask, right?
My husband said, Casey, really, you want your work to be credible? You want to go on MTV and you want to go on a show like that? And I said, yeah, because I'm a messenger.
There you go.
I'm an instrument. Yeah. And it was amazing. That day, they kind of script everything. That day, there was a young girl that had kind of been promised that she was going to be the one that would be the famous person on Next. She gets off the bus, and the boy that was choosing said, next. She was in shock. She began to wail like I've never heard anybody cry ever. Like it was gut-wrenching. And it was uncontrollable. And the people on the set didn't know how to work with her. They wanted to get on with it, but they had this wounded woman that her heart had been ripped out because she had a thought that she was going to be a star, and her stardom was less than 5 seconds. So what do? They come over to Granny, wise woman. They're like, Casey, what should we do? Do you think you could go pray for her? Do you think you could go control her? I said, I think I could go hear her story. And I think that she has a message for us. Well, I got to tell you, like whatever you need to do, because they needed to contain her. And all of these people signed that they will not sue anyone for that. And she was on her phone to her father, which was a very powerful attorney. So powerful, it got the producer very, very afraid. So I went over and I said, can I just tell you that I see that your soul has been ripped open, and I just want to sit with you, and I just want to hold you for a moment. And I did. I held her like she was a crying baby. And she said, everybody rejects me. I always get rejected. And I heard this entire story of her life, of how everybody rejects her, and that this was her one time that she was going to be finally accepted. And it was amazing. So it was interesting. I went over to the crew and I said, we need to do a healing. And it's going to take everyone to come over and begin lifting up the energy. Let's lift up the energy, lift up the energy. And literally everyone on the set came around. And I said, let's send her love. Let's send her light. It was so great for me because I'm standing back. Before this, it had gotten pretty toxic. And I had to go over to the other room, other part of the filming, and start doing this because of so much nasty negativity, because they were kind of feeding on it. So I was over there lifting it up.
Cleansing.
They came over and said, what can we do? What can we do? We've got to change the situation. We're going to get sued. She's going to end up in a mental hospital. We're going to be responsible.
Wow.
You're going to send her a different kind of energy. Every single person began to send her light and lift her up. And she stopped crying. And we all sat for a moment. And the residents in the park changed. And I said to them, do you see that we can change the entire park by what we think and how we're intentional? Well, you can imagine the rest of the filming was very, very different. We had a young girl that came out. She actually, if you saw her backstage, she'd been this real snotty person. That wasn't the energy that we were taking that day. So the rest of it is, it came out very, very gentle, which was not the format of the show. I didn't realize at the time, but it was basically to disc and take people apart. So the end of the show, the only way they could make it come together is that they had to play this guitar, and they're like skipping off into the park in a very happy way, which was the polarity of the program. And so the woman that had engaged me said, I got to tell you, we may not even use this because it's so different than anything that we do. It doesn't really fit the rest of the set.
Wow.
They used it, and it was amazing because I could see from the back end that those people were forever changed. So I went home to my husband. I said, I was an instrument spirit. Spirit showed up, and he's like, only you. And I said, that's right. I would have been the only one that day that would have had the credentials to be a toe psychic, but to be the day, no one will ever forget that. I know that if you were to ask those young people that were on the set, they will think twice again about the way that they sliced open someone's heart. And they will forever send a different way of energy.
That's raising consciousness.
It was raising consciousness. So is that crazy? What when you're set up to be a toe reader, it's like, really? I remember getting kind of mad at God. It's like, really? You can't trust me with anything bigger? I can't even begin to tell you all the places I've been all over the world now, the people that I've had a chance to sit before and to help begin to realize it's not at all about what we think it is.
No, and that brings up so many things as you're speaking, but I want to listen, so I don't want to be the one talking.
Well, first up, you didn't know your toes were going to be red today, did you?
I didn't know my toes were going to be red today, but I teach a very specialized yoga that's maybe in a few pockets around the world, and I look at people's whole foot. And what we say in our practice is that you don't need to eat a whole cake to know what's in it. You take one bite, and you know if there's sugar, and you know if there's cinnamon, and you know if there's not, or if it's undercooked or overcooked. So, I love that you ask God, really, that little piece, but, we can go to the smallest, tiniest piece.
And that's what I always say. I say exactly what you say, that whether you look at one toe, or whether you look at one I
Mm-hmm.
or one word? Like if I said to you, Jesse, think of one word right now.
The first word was abundance.
Abundance, okay. So the question would be, in your life, after 9/11, where did abundance show up? Was it the polarity of a lot or the polarity of not enough?
It was the polarity of a lot.
Of a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. Any single word on any single day is a message if we ask it in a question. If I were to ask it even deeper, what did Spirit want you to know about abundance on 9/11?
Well, what comes to mind is that there's more than enough, and the universe is infinite, and what is available for us. And that began to open up within the first few years.
Absolutely.
Because I started my practice at August of 2001, so it was 5 weeks before 9/11.
Okay.
And my life has been forever changed from that moment forward. My life is completely different than it was in my 20s.
You know, we had James Patrick on a previous episode, and there's two things that you taught me through him. The first was you asked James in a hallway, hey, are you going to get your minister's license? And he's like, I don't really know. I don't want to be a minister. And you said, James, you're being of service to people. That's a minister.
That
and
is a ministry.
Oh, that's profound. And number two, you said, look, when we pray, if you want to pray to God or universe or spirit, we just say Gus. And I thought that was so profound, because we have to get out of the box.
Yes.
The dualistic, thinking of it's a deity that's far away. It's all here. It's all connectedness.
I can't tell you how many people are able to have a conscious conversation with Gus, but they can't pray to God, or they get totally caught up in the icon of it.
How much of that do you think is just built into our DNA from generation to generation, that God is something out there rather than internalizing it as a being?
Well, Einstein talked about it. Most recently, the God Code was written by James Braden, and there is a piece of us that is incomplete. It's called the God molecule, that we're looking for something. Now, the completion is that we come together with Source, Self, Spirit. But oftentimes we blow it out and think, well, it's out there, because we don't understand that our true consciousness is within. So I believe that if you are itchy, spiritually itchy, like you're looking for something, it's because of exactly what Einstein said. There is an intelligence within us that is searching for that more. And that more is, where do we connect to the more?
Coming up, do you go within or without when you pray? On The Turning Stone Show.
This yoga practice shows us that what we do on the mat is the exact same thing as what we do off the mat. Gives us the opportunity to become aware of that and to learn skills and techniques that effectively enhance our yoga practice and effectively enhance our lives.
My patients come in and they are looking for one thing. They are looking to be happy within themselves. And so when I take them through the process of transforming their scar, their skin, whatever it is I'm working on with them, I'm also giving them hope and confidence. Their inner beauty is not only really who they are inside, I want them to feel like they're just as good as anybody else, no matter what.
Turning Stone Show. Spiritual consciousness evolving.
I don't get angry very much anymore, but I tend to get frustrated when I hear people saying they're going to go pray, or they're putting so much intention on praying to God that God's going to do something, rather than really looking at looking at our own internal power.
That's that external
and the godlike
super being that's going to intervene.
And it's the one place inside of all this where I do notice wanting to offer something more, and I haven't engaged in the conversation enough with people to be practiced at it, where I want to really say, like, look within first. Like, go within, breathe, tune in with yourself, listen, and ask for the answer.
Yeah.
And it's not asking for the answer out there. It's like asking for the answer for my highest good.
And what you're going to find is everybody has a place. Some of us think it's here, some of it's here, some of it's that our highest self is here. So I don't even say to anybody anymore, don't look out, look in. I say, where do you need to be? Where do you need to go?
That's good.
Where do you need to go? Is it that you need to get bigger?
Yeah,
Because sometimes
sure.
our earth suit is so limiting that maybe you need to get bigger and
Expand,
go
yeah.
out here. Other people say, why are you going out there? Go in high. The better question would be, where do you need to go?
That's great.
What
Yeah.
would serve your soul best in
Yes.
this moment of time?
Where do you need to go? Ooh, that was
Yes,
goosebumpy.
yes, yes.
That was
That's my
goosebumpy.
question. That's I brought that to the show. It's like I developed about 10 years ago, actually when I started my practice. There was something that just inside of my own evolvement, I wrote the question down is what does your soul desire to experience in this moment of time that would have it be fulfilled? And it allowed me to start really sinking into, okay, what do I want to experience? And the more, it's so funny because that sentence came to me about 10 years ago. And even this week, Wendy and I were, at a retreat workshop all week. And that was a question that kept coming up over and over and over is the word experience, is creating experiences in life. And then the connection of soul and not to, it was more about what experience, it was almost related it to the bucket list. Like we create a bucket list. It's like, forget that. It's like, what experiences do you want to create in life that would have you be fulfilled?
Right.
And start asking for at least for myself. So it shifted the context that you talked about from having a bucket list and like goals to accomplish something to, wow, what's the emotion I want to experience? What's the what's the whole experience that I want to be in?
Go one step farther, because this is the question where I'm at now. What am I willing to do to experience that divine connection?
Put your butt on the line.
Put your butt on the line. Yes.
That's good.
But it's your spiritual butt.
That's great.
Your spiritual
And part of it is taking the butt out of your life. Like, but I can't do that because what would my mother think, or what my father think, or what my husband think. It's, if you want to put your spiritual butt on the line, it's like get out of the butts and imagine that you could connect. Imagine you did have all those answers within. Imagine that you, very specifically, were, quote, saved on 9/11 for a purpose. And that purpose happens every single day, and it's for you to look at people and help them.
Well, that was going to be my question. Is you talked about purpose and soul. Is that our greatest purpose? Is to make a difference with others and to have that connection?
Is your greatest purpose, Jesse?
Is my greatest purpose to make a difference with others?
Breathe that in.
I know mine is. Like that's the question I ask myself, and so then it's a question of then, okay, well, how? Then would the question be, how does my soul want to experience that purpose?
How does my soul want, or how must my soul?
How must my soul be to experience
that greater, deeper purpose?
Deeper
Why did I
purpose.
need to incarnate in this lifetime? Why am I back?
And that's the question we're all trying to get.
Right,
now,
exactly.
Wendy is a very accomplished author. She has a website, turnyourlifeinsightout.com.
Yes.
It's brilliant. She is someone who's very intuitive, and she speaks from that place of intuition. Wendy, speak about how, I know that you got a million things swirling around. Bring that intuition into presence in this conversation.
What speaks to me the loudest right now is I found my deepest connection with God, within myself, with Gus, when I am taking a stand and speaking up for someone else. You said you speak up after 9/11, or the speaking out came more as a concretized part of your life and your determination. So when I speak up, certainly in the realm of taking a stand for someone else, what in those moments comes through is God speaking.
Yes.
So I enrich my personal connection with Gus. I keep changing the name. So for the benefit of the outward focus of saying what is beneficial for someone else. Before I come on my radio show, before I come on this show, I stop and I ask God to give me the words most ideal for the audience, not most ideal for me when I'm home alone. Yes, I ask for the words most ideal for myself, but in this type of forum, What does the audience need to hear? Because I couldn't possibly know.
Right.
So when I'm excited to take a stand for you, I don't pretend that I have advice for anyone. And so with that, if I'm going to say something, it's easy for me to connect to that space, and it has been such a blessing. So I get more excited to take that stand for someone else and speak out. And that's what I heard you say.
Absolutely. And that's why I use instrument of spirit. It's like, help me understand what it is I'm supposed to speak. And I always say when I'm brilliant, it's never me. Like when I've said
for
something
sure.
amazing or I've written something amazing, it's never me. It's that bigger divine spirit. It's the light coming through. Like when I read it and say, wow, that's amazing, I'll say, thank you, light. Like that was the new place. Like when I write something and I don't recognize it or I have an aha, it was because spirit came down and or came without, came out and said that. And that's what I think is exciting, because one of the things, as we look back of 9/11, the one difference between Pearl Harbor and even the JFK day on the calendar was that there were a few people that knew about Pearl Harbor, not a lot of current footage. Then we had JFK, and there was some footage that within that same day got on. 911, there were TVs in every single village in the entire world, and there were people watching it. And so that's one of the reasons that the shift was so great, because we were all seeing the same pictures. Now we saw it differently, and yet it was the day that the consciousness from a visual perspective had a similar thought. And so there was either fear or perhaps pleasure. I'd have to go more into that, but there was a change. There was like a holding. And that's why the ring on the consciousness of the earth had a vibration that will perhaps never be the same.
And it took an event like that, actually,
Yes.
as I'm listening to you, to be able to collectively
Yes.
alter the entire world to be watching at the same time.
Right.
Imagine the energy that's happening
Yes.
just inside of that, let alone the event that was happening.
Now, the fragmentation came from we all have our pictures and what that meant. And there was a judgment between bad and good.
Yeah.
What I would wonder is it still a chance for us to look at what is the invitation to take us to a new level, a new high. One of the last stories I might just share about 9/11 is that I have for many years done a forgiveness ceremony. And I do it traditionally on Good Friday, because Good Friday in many of the spiritual traditions is a day where it's the day of forgiveness. And so for over 20 years, I've always done a forgiveness ceremony. And so the Good Friday after 9/11, I said, let's imagine that we are here and we can get to a high level to realize that may not have been a bad man, or there may have not been bad people. They were just doing a piece of their contract. They were contracted to be the pilots that knocked into the towers so as to knock us conscious. What if we love them enough to forgive them? What if their teacher, whatever his name may have been, was just doing what he signed up to do? And that we actually have to say, now this is hard, thank you for the dark so that we can experience the light today.
You can't have a light without the presence of the dark. Yeah.
So is that an outrageous thought?
No,
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Coming up, we discuss more about the topic of forgiveness on The Turning Stone Show.
Turn Your Life Inside Out is a book of articulations. Each page is a completely separate topic. This book is a pocket guide of support and reminders to give you what you need just when you need it the most. If you're listening to this now, it's because you've already chosen to head your life in the direction of your greatest dreams. If you open this book to any random page, you'll notice it's not so random at all.
Turning Stone Show. Spiritual consciousness evolving.
Then what I take that a little bit deeper then, as I've experienced recently around forgiveness, is getting to the point where forgiveness actually isn't even necessary, where it's just like I have it like there was something wrong, it was something to forgive, whereas I can look at it from another context, because we're talking about context here, is switching the context to there's perfection in everything.
There is perfection.
And so for myself, I have really, because I had this experience recently where I did an exercise of doing some completion around my father and my stepfather. And I've done that same exercise many times before, but when it got to the end of it this time, it was done a little bit differently. And I was getting to the point where I could, like I was experiencing the words forgiveness want to come out of my thought patterns and my mouth. And I realized there was nothing left in the space to forgive.
Right.
And all that was there was love and light. And then the next time I did that exercise again with my dad, my stepdad, they both showed up in light, holding hands together. And their message to me was, we're here now to support you in transforming and making a difference in the world. And it was completely different. And so then I have goosebumps with that, because it's been that visceral with me. But what I really love and appreciate that is, and I heard this a couple times this week as well, is the true perfection in everything. And I say that so often with people, because then it shifts for me, it makes me more interested in, okay, well, a question arises from that thought of, okay, there's perfection in what's happening right now. What's the lesson for me to learn out of this?
So you'll love this. Forgiveness to me is thank you for giving my soul exactly what it signed up for.
That's awesome.
Thank you for giving
so great.
me my lesson. Thank you for giving me.
Oh, that's so good.
That's good.
Because then you just want, like, okay, bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my God, that's so good. I have goosebumps again.
So give us some context about your school. What I learned about you is that you're a tremendous entrepreneur and a giver, and you are here to be of service. So you gave me some history when we built your video piece that I didn't have time to include. You started the school with a very small amount. You didn't know what you were going to do after that money ran out, but it's been going, and it's been 24 years.
We celebrated our 24th anniversary. Yes, and it started out of that need because there was no place at the time that would allow you to do massage and recognize spirit. It had to be strictly the body. You had to understand anatomy, and you had to be able to spell all the words, and you had to be able to do all of the strokes exactly right. And for me, I could not even hardly live with that. I couldn't live with that. And I wanted to have a place where we could talk about body, mind, and spirit. And for 24 years, that's been the one uncompromised value, that we will talk about spirit. We would ask that anything that happens is a part of the divine plan. We oftentimes pray or hold that committed focus together in a classroom, in a staff meeting. And what I love about my business is I have not been me. I got real clear of who I needed to be and what I wanted to be in the world.
Authentic.
And very authentic. And so that's what we've been. And it has been profitable. Sometimes less profitable than others. And my husband said to me, remember, you have a mission, you aren't a mission.
That's great. Pragmatic.
That's great.
And what I love is that I think if you were to interview the thousands of graduates, they would say two things. They met themselves, and they are not alone.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. Yes, they can go and do whatever they want. They can be a massage therapist, they can be a hypnotherapist, they can be a life coach, they can be anything they want. One of my favorite graduates is one that realized that she's actually a comedian, a conscious comedian, and she met herself in class and realized that she was just fine. She was searching for something, and that what she was searching for was her truest, authentic self, and it came to be that she was a funny soul.
What? You mean I'm not your favorite graduate student?
Yeah, you didn't let me finish that. You'll know that you and I, for what, almost 15 years?
15 years, yeah.
Have I see you.
Yeah.
And that is my greatest gift. When
Yeah.
I look at people, I see them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see them. And sometimes I realize my job on earth is to say, I see you. I see you.
It's so funny that you say
That's
that
beautiful.
because that's what I've always desired from you. And
be
I
seen.
know that I've always been seen by you.
You just want to be seen. Yeah.
That's why I be saying.
What was interesting about how I found Southwest Institute of Healing Arts was I had the light bulb go off, like, oh, I could do that. I could do massage, because I was always asking the question, what can I do? And I went to every single school in the Valley. I walked in physically, and at this time I didn't know it was because I need to experience what I feel when I'm there. But I walked in every single school, interviewed, went through the process, what have you. And then the moment I walked in Sweeha, I knew that was it. It was walking the halls, the experience that's there, the mind, body, and spirit and energy that fills the halls. I knew. I was like, okay, this is where, and I have discovered myself and found myself. That was the beginning of my transformational journey, was through school, so thank you.
What are some logistical things if you are a young person that you feel like you don't have direction, you don't feel purpose, you feel like you're not seen? What is the process to be involved in your school? Like just some of the administrative things, how does the classes work?
For the first Friday of every month for 20 years, literally the first Friday of every month for 20 years, we have a little place where we say come and experience an event called Discover Your Gifts and Graces. And we just have you come to see if you feel like we are a fit for you. And always during that time, there are complimentary life coaching, there are complimentary Reiki, perhaps toe reading, and just come. We're either going to be weird or you're going to feel home. And it's okay. I always say, if we're weird next lifetime, we probably won't be.
Well, it's so funny. It's so funny that you say that, because when I heard you, I went to Gifts and Graces earlier this year. I think it was even January, maybe. And I was just in the back of the room, but I heard you talk about the energy from 9/11, and I immediately perked up. And I was already doing the exercise in there because I love the energy. But I brought my business partner at the time, and he was sitting way out in the hall. I'm like, "Are you doing the exercise? Are you listening?" He's like, "This stuff is so weird. Like, I don't want any part of being inside of that room."
And I always say, if you're uncomfortable, that's great. Because that's our marketing. You either fit right now or not. Or
it plants a seed, though. I'll tell you that.
It does.
So I appreciated being there that day because it led to today. So thank you.
When I went to the yoga class and I watched you speak to the room, and I'm sure this is an example of many different people, but you pointed to a young man and you said, you remember when you came to us, you were very angry. And you said, now you're not. And he was just relaxed and happy. I mean, there's a lot of things you do to help people.
A lot of things that happen. I always say I am just a willing worker of the divine and hold that space. But what's great, it's not me. There are 108 employees. There are 108 teachers. Is that amazing?
108. How did you do that? It's my favorite number.
And it happens because you hold the space for it to happen.
That's great. Do you always keep 108, or is it just like right now it's 108?
It goes up and down. It's not like by design, but I don't think when we give bonuses, I always say, now make sure you go get 108 $100 bills so that we can say to 108 people, you gave 100%, let us give you just a token of $100 bill.
So great.
Or sometimes I go, this is just an interesting thing, sometimes I go and get 108 $100 bills. And so if someone's on the side of the road, then my give to them would be $100. They are always very excited. And they always watch me go down the road, and I think to myself, I wonder if they think, oh my gosh, I just saw an angel go away. That's who I want to be, that walking angelic angel, whatever that looks like. And it's not always about the $100 bill. It could be 100 seconds or 108 seconds of absolute full attention. Will it make some people uncomfortable? I hope so.
What corner are you usually doing that on?
And you do present as that angel.
For sure.
That illuminates from you clearly.
Thank you.
Just in case you didn't know how it looks from our end of the spectrum. And I'm sure the viewers will all agree.
Some people say that when I'm really in spirit that my eyes actually change. That they'll say, "Oh, you have really blue eyes," and it's like, great. Sometimes I'll see a picture and I don't recognize my eyes because they are bluer than sometimes. I don't wear contacts, and it's because spirit is showing up. In my color of spirit, oftentimes is a blue shine.
It illuminates through very clearly, very clearly. Yeah, that's beautiful. And in the great words of Bob Proctor, I love when he says this, you don't say that to impress people, but to impress upon them what you're speaking of.
There we go.
Yeah, awesome. Casey, thank you so much for being here. As a kind of a concluding thought, what is it that you want people to know about evolving human consciousness and purpose?
We're all here for a reason. There are no extra human beings. I mean, that's probably the most important thing. If you're here, it's because you are here for a reason. It's amazing if you say, now you are not an extra, because so many people say to me, but I've always felt like I was extra. You are not extra.
Or unworthy.
Or unworthy or anything. If you are here in an earth suit, it's because there is a spirit that must use your earth suit as a vehicle for that work.
So
there are no extra human beings.
That is great. Thank you. I'm glad you said that. There are no extra human beings. You are here for a reason. You're here for a purpose. In fact, you chose to come here. If that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will. So thank you very much, Casey. I appreciate you being here, and I can't wait until we meet again. So we have another episode we're going to do beginning of the year that I'm excited about, and you're going to definitely want to tune in for that. Now is the time in the show where we like to have a turning stone, something to set your intention for the week, and with this week's turning stone, we go to Jesse.
The question to practice this week is, what does your soul desire to experience in this moment of time that would have it be fulfilled? So we've had this amazing conversation with Casey Miller, and what we want to leave you with this week is go within and discover what is your purpose. And maybe you're on your purpose path now and you know that. See what the next level of that may be. So some easy action steps for asking and for receiving an answer for your purpose is journal. Spend some time journaling, spend some time hiking, but ask the question, why am I here? What is my purpose? And how can I make a difference in my community, in my world, even within myself for this experience that I'm having in life? So have fun with it. Take lots of breaths while you're journaling, while you're hiking, or whatever you choose to do. And pause in those moments and listen and wait for the answer. You will find it. And have fun. And remember, this is a show about questions and questioning. It is not a show about answers. Nothing we say here is the truth. It is up to each of us to discover our own truth.
Join us each week on the Turning Stone Show as we continue the journey of conversations.
Subscribe and get in touch with us. Stay connected and join in the conversation.